Touring the American war monuments, memorials, and cemeteries of France isn't for everyone. I know that. But even those who might be interested in seeing them for historical and/or patriotic reasons, imagine them to be located in places that are difficult to reach from Paris. Some are. Yet just 5 miles from the Eiffel Tower as the crow flies, an easy ride by taxi or by frequent suburban train from the capital, followed by a mere 500-yard walk from the Suresnes Mont Valérien station, lies the Suresnes American Cemetery. Take in the view out to Paris and La Défense, then cross the street, and you arrive at this beautiful entrance. No one's here today. What luck. How wonderful to have the place all to myself, I thought at first. I can take pictures with no one in them. Then that same thought saddened me. Why has no one else come here on such a pleasant autumn afternoon? I don't like being here alone. I'd rather there were living people with a shared history on the lawn, not just hundreds of marble grave markers. Few Americans visit the U.S. war sites in France, other than the Normandy American Cemetery. Why is that? The Suresnes American Cemetery is located at the base of Mont Valérien, Mount Valérien, a French military site since the mid-19th century, which contains one of the most important French memorials of the Second World War. This was the main execution site used by the German army in France. Over 1,000 resistance fighters, hostages, communists, and Jews were killed by firing squads here. In 1960, Charles de Gaulle extended the significance of the site when he inaugurated here a national memorial for all those who fought for France during the war, La France combattante. In addition to the significance of the memorial, what's particularly interesting here is the evolution of the official French interpretation of their own history in the years since the war and since the creation of the memorial. This major French World War II memorial is just a 5-minute walk from the American Cemetery, so both can and should be visited on the same outing. The American Cemetery actually predates the French Memorial, since it was created decades earlier for Americans who died in the First World War. This is one of 8 permanent World War I cemeteries in Europe created by the American Battle Monuments Commission, 6 of which are in France, most as empty as this on a given day. Of the 6 on French soil, this is the only one that was not created near a former battlefield. That's because most of the 1,541 Americans buried here died from wounds or illness in hospitals away from the front, including many who died of the influenza epidemic, known as the Spanish flu. The cemetery later received the remains of 24 unknown American soldiers, sailors, Marines, or airmen of the Second World War, so it has come to honor the fallen of both wars. Though primarily a First World War cemetery, the memorial building was designed after the Second World War. It was created by the American Battle Monuments Commission in 1952. Inside, the mural of the Memorial Chapel honors the dead of the American Expeditionary Forces. The Angel of Victory, holding a palm branch, flies over the graves of the fallen. The memorial's left wing pays a tribute to those who died following our entrance into the First World War in 1917. The statue represents remembrance. The memorial's right wing is a tribute to Americans who fell during the Second World War. This statue represents memory. This and other memorials, monuments, and cemeteries are fascinating and worth visiting, not just for their war history or for the patriotic sentiment they might instill, but for the history of their creation and design, their art, architecture, landscaping, and horticulture. What they tell about the wars they represent and about the era in which they were designed, and especially the opportunity they present to contemplate their relationship with our world, in our country today. What could the First World War possibly mean to us more than 100 years on? How do political leaders relate to those distant events? Would we act now as we did then? As I say, I don't like being here alone. A photo of hundreds of perfectly aligned cold marble grave markers on a rich green lawn makes for a good photo op. But it also indicates a loss of interest in our shared history. More than sites to be honored, maintained, praised, glorified, or commemorated, they're meant to be visited and shared, considered and reconsidered. Why not visit one of them? This one, for example, when you travel to France.